Welcome to the Soccer Podcast USA. This is Christina Unkel, joined with the one, the only Lori Lindsey, who you've heard all summer long covering the incredible women's Euros and an incredible ending to it all. Didn't see that coming necessarily. My heart's with the Lionesses. I was drinking champagne for the Lionesses before they won. But I don't think any of us saw that coming, and definitely not the dark horses, Germany, right? So, Lori, thoughts on that? Did you
Yeah.
see that? Yeah,
No, I actually thought, in my opinion, Spain were the favorites. Um,
yeah.
and I thought with the tournament that they had, and they seemed like a cohesive unit throughout. It felt like there was a much different feeling than they had for, I'm sure, a number of reasons, though, in the Olympics last year. And yeah, I thought they started well, and I thought the Germany game was an incredibly important game for them to go into the final against England, just from a physicality standpoint. That wasn't an easy match for them to finish off. I felt like if Germany would have taken their chances, Spain could have lost in the semifinal, right? But it posed a different threat than they had seen throughout the tournament. And I had figured that England was going to potentially have a similar game plan. And so it suited Spain for having that Germany semifinal to come in and be prepared for that. And I thought in a lot of ways played out that way in the first half. But I even said it in game on the commentary that the biggest mistake I feel like right now for Spain is that they did not take their chances in the first half. They let England hang around, and as we've seen throughout the tournament for England, Lionesses, like that's the worst mistake because there was, even though they weren't playing the best football, so much belief, so much desire, and honestly, the ability to bring game changers on and put games away when you would count them out typically. So that's what happened. We saw a little bit of change in the intensity and the way that England played in the second half, got that tying goal, and then essentially the rest is history. I thought there was some actually odd decision personally to bring Putellas off, even if she wasn't having the most impactful game, because her and Bomati and Patri Guijarro, they run the midfield, right? I understand about other players bringing them in and out around them, but I felt like Caldente, who I think is exceptional, is not a like for like though in the midfield for Putellas, and I felt like that change allowed England to be able to gain a foothold in the midfield and really turn the momentum into their favor. And it was, in my opinion, it was hard for Spain to come back from that in a lot of ways. So I thought that was very interesting because we hadn't seen that. Um, but all that to be said, congrats to England, back to back, extremely difficult. Also, when you lose in the World Cup final to Spain, in between the two Euros. So that mentality under Serena Wiegmann, when you lose your first game, we know stories behind that. And like typically teams who lose the first game, it's hard to come back from. But they did. And they dug deep. And my goodness, did they make it dramatic and so fun. And yeah, so kudos to them. What a tournament in general. But also to Spain. Great tournament, fabulous team, and all the teams really. So good.
No, it was a great one, and it's cool to what was it, this first trophy won off of home soil
Yep.
for all of England. That is a cool fact. And then
Yep.
you just see the celebrations. I was trying to see if Jill Scott or Kaz would jump on, and then I was like, nah, they're over there celebrating.
Yeah.
So we'll get
Exactly.
them on the show here shortly because they got a really cool podcast that they've launched over there in England. But just probably not the last bit, but probably the most shocking bit. Did you guys know this by any chance? Of Lucy Bronze playing with a fractured tibia. Did you have any knowledge of that throughout the tournament?
No. No, not at
Yeah.
all. Not at all. So, which is wild. And I've seen some like wonderful discussions, and I don't know, like maybe we don't have time to in this episode to get into it, but there's been some wonderful discussions because one of the things that we do know and have known about Lucy Bronze is her mentality, right? And so it's not surprising. And so when I read that about the broken tibia, um, I mean, it also wasn't surprising just because she's battled through a ton of knee injuries in the past, where it was surprising that she's even had the career that she's had. So to me, I kind of just read it as, wow, like that is this player's mentality, right? But some of the wonderful discussions, and I think this is how I've interpreted it, is just that discussions on like, what does that message send to younger players? How are others perceiving it when at all costs? Do you play through injuries? Is that really the best for a well-being of a player? And I find that like such a fascinating discussion, because as sport in general grows, women's sport grows, but also even on the men's side too. Really important questions. And I said, I don't know. I've been going from one competition to the next, so it doesn't like I have a fully formulated thought. But my initial thoughts are, um, no, obviously, I don't think that kids should be playing um, injured, right? And it's first and foremost taking care of the health. But also, Lucy Bronze has been playing professionally for a really long time, and she would know her body. One of the stories that we told in one of the commentaries in game two was talking about how a younger player on England looks up to Lucy Bronze, just the way that she takes care of her body, right? And I would, without anybody telling me this, would guess that Lucy Bronze had many discussions with the medical team being like, okay, these are the risks, right? You can play on this. There might be some discomfort, but it's not going to make it worse. This is just what I'm guessing, right? And so then Lucy Bronze would have the ability, because she knows her body best and has been playing professionally for 2 decades, close, or not almost, that she would have the ability to make those decisions. But I also think that's very different, and that's where individual communication from teams as a younger parents guiding those conversations is very different from a Lucy Bronze who's been playing at the top level, knows her body, knows how to take care of it. To my point about a younger player and the Lionesses being like, wow, I look up to Lucy because this is how I need to take care. This is how I need to prep for each game, right? And with the ice baths, everything that she does, versus like a young player seeing this and saying, okay, I have to play injured to get to the best or win at all costs. And I think maybe that's part of the conversation that needs to be more in focus too. The very differences of playing at the elite level, that player knowing their body, versus is the messaging win at all costs, everybody needs to play hurt, where that's not the case, right? Player B might not be able to do that. And
Yeah.
does that make sense? So I just find
No, it
find
makes
it a
perfect sense. I think
very
it's the
necessary
context side of it.
conversation, but also, yes, the
Yeah.
context and how it's being pulled out from the media. Is it being looked at as like heroic in some way or not? Or somebody just saying, wow, this is an athlete that did push through, but they'd also know their body, right? So all very necessary
That'll be
conversation.
good one for another episode. I completely agree with you on that one, because it's
Mhm.
like context is lost, but at the end of the day, like where does one go in the sense of analyzing, understanding, and just nowadays, right?
Mhm.
With people aspiring to be professional athletes and being young, right? They building like a whole ecosystem around that. So we'll find someone to speak on that point too, the psychology and the physicality side of it.
Yeah.
But I know we're gonna have Tony here as our guest today on jumping on. I know we had questions about penalty kicks last time we saw. We got penalty kicks coming up, and we also have when he jumps on here. But like Chloe, like her setup, it's like a high horse, like a knee high up in the air. That's
Yeah.
flair. That's flair. I mean, if she misses, it's not cool.
Oh,
But because she doesn't miss, it's cool.
there's some funny, like, they're not even memes, but people doing like a little like Instagram videos of they've watched too much Chloe Kelly, so now they step off a curb and they do like the little jump off, right? Oh, it's just too funny. Or you're like going to pick up your child and you like jump in to like grab your child. Like the whole thing is.
I loved it. The girls got flair. The girls got
Mhm.
style.
Mhm.
I like it. I like it. I was like, you got to, right? You got
Yeah.
to put a stamp on it. Only if you're good. If you're not good, don't do that. That's just weird. So, context, pro athlete. Cool. All right. Well, we're gonna have Tony here on board in a second to talk penalty kicks.
Hey
Hello,
guys,
sir.
what's happening? You all
Hi,
right?
Tone.
What's happening?
How are you? Is that
Good to
a
hear your voice all the time.
is
Oh, let
that
me make sure
a
this mic is connected.
is
Yeah,
that
looks like it is.
a Fort Lauderdale hotel that you're in?
It's a hotel. It's the hotel we use in Stanford that I come up to all the time. Christina probably knows it.
Oh yeah, should
The
yeah, the
Residence
Residence Inn
Inn.
one. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep, I know. Every time I'm always like, why am I going to eat out when I could just cook my whole dinner that night
right
there?
here. Yep, I know. I know.
I love it. Tony, thanks for
Um,
joining us.
yeah, no worries. Apologies. I have to leave around 1:30. I'm sure you don't
Yeah,
you don't need me that long, but I got to drive to New Jersey tonight, and it's like 2.5 hours where I'm going
no
at this time
problem.
in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we just jump on here and kind of, I don't know if you've seen the show, but we just jump on and talk about whatever we want. We have no rules. I mean, our producers have given up on Lori and I. We just kind of go for it. So wherever we kind of want to hit. But yeah, obviously, Lori, Tony,
Yeah.
Lori for the rest of the world. Who doesn't know him means you're hiding in a box somewhere. But we have with ourselves Tony Meola, over 300 appearances in Major League Soccer, U.S. national team goalkeeper. Hall of Fame inductee. What year was that, Tony? Like 20?
Oh, it's only a couple of years ago, 2012. It was like
Okay.
yesterday.
It's like yesterday. Just that. But like, what a perfect person. Just to
Oh,
bring onto the
thanks.
show and have a conversation about where soccer's going in the United States. And I think even importantly, like, I know Tony always hits on goalkeeper stuff, but just like his element and his growth in the game outside of just commentating on the game, but from like the business and the perspective of having seen it. But so Tony, welcome to the show. Obviously, Lori. And Lori and I have actually a lot of goalkeeper questions, as you can imagine,
Uh-oh.
for penalty kicks. So, sorry, I don't even know where to kick off with that. I mean, Lori commentated on them. So, Lori, where do you want to start on the penalty kick discussions?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to tell Tony the story that I don't think I've ever told you, Tony, because I haven't seen you in a bit. We were seeing each other for quite a while, like a
Yeah, well,
lot.
I see you like at like about every 72 hours or so. I see you calling a
Yeah,
game. So
it's
we're
fair. Fair. Goodness gracious. But I'm thrilled that you're on. But okay, listen, this story that I don't think I've ever told you. When I was like 10 or so, like 1990 Men's World Cup, right? And I thought you were the coolest. You had the mullet, you had the tight goalkeeper jersey, the pull-on like goalkeeper gloves. And I mean, I was like 5 years into playing at that time, maybe six, but I was like, I want to be a goalkeeper. I want to be Tony Meola. And
oh no.
my dad would he built us a goal in the backyard. I'd make my brother come out there and shoot on me, and I would just pretend like I grew my hair out like mullet. It was already a little bit like a mullet, but I would just sit there and pretend. I would punt the ball up against our house and pretend that I was you when I was like 10 years old. Just
Can can we explain to people who don't know how cool the mullet was back then? Because I feel like
oh,
if
it
you
was
say mullet
dynamite.
now and you don't give any context to it, you're like, it wasn't cool, but back then it was. But anyway, Lori, thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you didn't turn into me. That's all I can say.
No, I was
I'm so happy
obsessed.
you went another direction.
I had not only did I have the women's World Cup like from the '99 for them picture, but I also had the men's team up on my wall as well, like a poster.
Awesome,
So you were like front and center um, all the time. So yes. Anyway, I wanted to share that because I don't think I
awesome.
had shared that with you. But obviously, I didn't play
Thank
goalkeeper
you.
anytime after that. But okay, yeah. So let's dive in. Let's make use of your time since you have to go. I'm just curious, kind of what you think. I just finished calling the Euros. There were the women's Euros. There was a lot of conversation about missed penalties, poorly taken penalties, how the goalkeepers impacted that in general. And I would just be curious to hear your thoughts and your opinion on that. Because side note, one thing I have read a little bit of research, and some of the research previously had been, and this was mainly just like on men's soccer. So I just want to make sure that that's noted. But that penalties actually get better as the tournament goes along, and I'm not so sure we actually saw that in this Euro. So I'd just be curious, kind of your thoughts and in general what goalkeepers are looking for during those times as well.
Well, yeah, they certainly, from a kicker standpoint, they weren't great, right? And if it was, it ended up 3-1, and there were nine penalty kicks, so that's four of nine penalty kicks, right? So generally, the average is around 70%. So as far as the numbers are concerned, and I'm not a huge number guy, they were a little
Yeah,
bit below the numbers. But I think when you look at what's happened in women's football in particular with regards to how good the goalkeepers have become, now you start to
yeah,
think a little bit, right? There's a little bit more pressure. The goalkeepers are more athletic. They're bigger and taller and longer in the way that they approach the position. And then there's a little bit more history now, right? Like you look and it was Hampton, right? The goalkeeper, who by the way is just an amazing story. Like her whole story about her vision and all of that stuff for the English national team, and doctors telling her she'd never be able to see in a way that she could play competitively. You guys covered it on the broadcast. Like there, you think about just where the position has come you tell me, from a shooting standpoint, right now it's not nearly as easy as maybe it might have been back in the day. I mean, it
Yeah.
just isn't. And then there's the pressure of the Euros, and I say this all the time, and I always wonder like what I would call non-goalkeepers think about it. If you took a poll in that stadium, I think there were what, look, 30 something thousand in that stadium the other day, and said, okay, is this next kick going to be a goal or a save? I would think most people think the ball's ending up in the back of the net, which for me ends up inherently just being pressure on the kicker,
Yeah.
right, all the time.
Yeah.
And plus, one thing the goalkeeper doesn't have to do, and I never had to do it in my life, is that long walk, right, from midfield, that like painful walk that you're just like, the cameras are on you. You're probably thinking about where you're going to go. Sometimes, and I know it's been eliminated from the game, there's antics from the goalkeeper, right? And you start thinking about all of those things, and like there's so much pressure given the stake. It's a final. I really feel like the pressure is still on the kicker, and now that the goalkeepers have become better, there's even more pressure. Maybe that's why we see the numbers that we saw. But for me to sit on the couch, I was on the couch, by the way, with my youngest son who was home from college and his college roommate. They're both baseball players. They don't really watch soccer, although he's a huge soccer fan, but of course they're focusing on their own thing. Man, we were glued to the TV listening to you guys. Like I couldn't get enough. And I'm married to an English wife who's sitting there with us, rooting for England, and we have this Italy-England thing going on all the time. And this time the women went out on Italy, so it was just, for us, it's a fun day. But I'm a neutral. I had no pressure sitting on my couch. You guys had all the pressure.
Yeah. No, I'll just say, jump in there really quickly. I think you're spot on about that, particularly just from the pressure standpoint. This is what I was saying throughout the tournament, because there's more eyeballs on the women's game. There's just, there's more coverage, right? There's the game in general has just elevated. Outside of just the goalkeepers too, the game has just elevated. And I think anytime that's the case, listen, people will know that the pressure is on, especially these big players. Even if you've played in the big games, you're still going to feel that, and maybe even more so because of how quickly the game and the visibility has increased in such a short amount of time. So I think that has certainly played a part. And then also you're watching the games, you're keeping an eye on what's happening. You as a player are hearing that players are missing. How much psychologically does that play a part as well? And I think there was something to be said throughout the tournament in that regard. So yeah, just interesting, a fun conversation, because as we've been saying, the games were dynamite. The final was amazing and so tight that that's what it comes down to. So
How much does that cheat sheet help though in that water bottle? Like I always see them taking it. Now everybody has a cheat sheet on the
there
water
you have
bottle. Does that even help? Does it work?
I mean, the one thing you do have is a little bit of history, right? Back in the day, there wasn't nearly as much videotape. There wasn't as much history. It helps, I suppose, if you have someone that is consistent with where they go, right? Okay, this person. Just think about it, Christina. If you got the water bottle and of course, you've studied some of this stuff before, but your goalkeeper coach says, Lori Lindsey's gone to her left 8 out of 10 times, like. You probably would take your chance, like she's going to go left once again because she feels comfortable doing that, right? So there's certainly some help there, but I still think there's an instinct in the goal. In general, when we were growing up, if it was a defender shooting a penalty kick, you were generally thinking it was going to be something that was going to hit really, really hard, right? That the defenders, bigger players, and then if it was a more finesse player, attacker, a winger, you were expecting something that was going to be placed in the corner a little bit more. The science has come so far now that it's incredible. We didn't have a couple things to deal with back in the day. Most guys were afraid to shoot down the middle, right? So we were defending 2 parts of the goal, where most of them have to defend 3 parts of the goal now, right? Middle and then right and left. We didn't have anyone who gave a stutter step back in the day, like you were completely thrown off. So we didn't really have to work on that. I think the stutter step is really, really effective, especially now with the way we're interpreting the new laws of the game with the goalkeepers. So things have changed dramatically. And of course, the training has changed, and the way you go about your business has changed. So like everything evolves, but those are just some of the differences we had. As far as the water bottle, I would have thought by now they would have graduated to like an iPad or something, but it seems like the water bottle just continues to roll. But yeah, there's so much that goes into penalty kicks. But again, I just go back to just the pressure on both ends, and you could feel it. And by the way, Laura, you and Jackie did a great job of articulating that through the game, because we were sat on the edge of our seats watching this thing, and I actually. My flight was so delayed the other night coming back up here. I got to watch it again on the airplane. So I watched it a second time on the airplane. So I got a double dose of Lori Lindsey.
You really are hearing me every Tuesday, maybe every like 12 hours, it
Yeah.
sounds like. You get the replay of it.
Uh, okay, Tony. I mean, so we're going from the women's Euros, right? You hear Lori everywhere. She's returning back to. You're still doing Copa, but returning back to MLS and Major League Soccer and all that's going on with it. I love. How did you get into commentary? Actually, let me jump into that. How did you get into commentating and stepping from off the field to back on the field, but with the voice?
Christina, I hated media when I was playing. I never
Oh,
thought I
me
was going to
too.
be
As a
doing
referee, I
this.
hated media. I hated it.
I
That's why I'm
really
here.
did. I didn't, but I was one of those guys, and fortunately, I was one of those guys that, like, when there were things happening, events, I was one of those guys that was invited to go do shows and all of that stuff. And I was literally driving to see my youngest on a visit at the University of Virginia, and Sirius XM called and said, "Hey, we know you're coming through a friend, and he said, we're coming through, and we know, can you pass by the studios in DC and come and do a live spot with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, it seems right." And that day, this guy by the name of Jeremiah Tittle, who was the producer at the time, said, "Hey, we're thinking about putting a second soccer show on the Soccer Channel." They literally only had one that aired once a week on Sirius XM. Now we're 24 hours a day. Lori knows, she's been on the channel for a couple years, and we've got shows forever. And they were like, "Yeah, just come do this." And a week later, they called me and said, "We want to do this second soccer show. Would you think about hosting?" I was like, "No way. I'm going into coaching. There's no way I'm going to do this." And in the same week, one of my buddies was calling a college soccer game, but his son, it was Old Dominion against Marshall in, I forget the name of the conference, the USA conference. I forget what it was, the conference. Anyway, it was a conference final, and it was in at Old Dominion. And he said, "My son got to the finals in college, and I'd love to go see the game. Can you fill in for me?" And I'm like, "Dude, I never called a game in my life, ever. Never thought about it. I didn't know how to study. I didn't know anything." And he's like, "I got it all organized for you with the producer." I'm like, "You're just going to call a producer and like I'm going to call a college soccer game?" And I actually did it that weekend. It was a Thursday, and I did it on the Friday. I ended up a week later, I was in the offices at Fox in LA, and that's how it all started. Like that. That's how crazy it was. And now I'm in my 15th year of being on air. And it just blows my mind, because I never thought that I would ever be doing this, ever. It was never in my plans. It was never something that I aspired to do. And it just it's kind of weird how it all came together in like 1 month in my life.
What is
And
it
we're
that
lucky for that.
sorry, Christina, I was
Thanks.
going to say, what is it that I know we are very lucky. It is fun to pick your brain and hear all these different things, and hear you on like the coverage of Serie A at times too, and just like your time playing over there. But what is it that still keeps you going in this realm? Like, what do you love about it?
I just love the people I work with. Like,
Yeah.
I'm up here at CBS. I work at Sirius. I work at Fox, and everywhere I go, it's just great. Like you run. We all do. We all run in the same circles. I mean, I've been on road trips with Christina, and like after a game, what are you doing? You're kind of sitting there talking about soccer, right? Like
Yeah.
you're just BSing about maybe the game you just covered, or something that's happening in the league, and like at some level you got to sit back and go, like, people are actually paying you to do something that you love, and we're not digging ditches, and it's not easy. Don't get me wrong, you guys know it's not easy. The studying is off the charts. I can't imagine with the number of things that you do. the studying would be easy. Look, I covered with you, and by the way, with a lot of your help, I covered the NWSL for a little while, and
Yep.
I took a lot of pride in learning the teams, learning the history, learning the names. I hated when every year somebody got married, like 10 people got married. I'm like, I just learned her name and now she got married. I got to learn another name. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, this is so, but I couldn't do it anymore because it was just too much. That's why I don't know. I respect what you do because I don't know how you do it. And I could never do it now with covering, obviously, Serie A, that's a love. The MLS and Serie A are the two loves for me.
Yeah.
It's the two leagues that I, kind of grew up in. Covering the EFL championship, there's just a lot to cover. But to your point, like I love doing it with the people I'm doing it with. Like
Yeah.
if this was industry, and you both know probably everyone that I've ever worked with because you've probably worked with them all at some point too. If this were an industry full of like jackasses, I just probably wouldn't do it because look, I especially after this year, with what happened to me with my little
Yeah.
health scare, and I don't really want to work with people that I don't like or don't enjoy being around all day, and I can't say that I've ever run into it in this business because if I want to do that, I just go back into coaching and just fight every day with everybody, and I still have an itch to do that. And I'm open about that.
That's the
One day I
Italian
still
in you
want to
for
do it
sure.
because I want to go. I want to go win something in the end. So
Yeah.
but I love what I do.
Yeah, Christine, I'm just going to jump in real quick because I was going to ask you quickly, Tony, about coaching since you just mentioned it. Where are you with that, and potentially pursuing that as well, or is that not on the near horizon right now?
I don't know, to be honest. I've got friends that are in the game that we've spoken about over the years. Like, hey, if I get a gig here, I've had two opportunities in the last 3 years, and just weren't the right situation for me.
Yeah.
Both as an assistant coach in MLS to go with people, and it just wasn't the right deal. And I'm really with the guys I talk to. I'm friends, so it's an easy conversation to say, hey, that's not the right thing. And it's not as if I'm like really, really picky, but I'm in a situation now where I'm fairly settled, so it has to be like a really good situation. I loved when Tab Ramos was the technical director at U.S. Soccer. I was coaching at the youth national team level for about almost 5.5 years. And I loved the age group I loved the most was the U18s because you generally had 16 and 17-year-old kids that were like just turning pro. They had that gleam in their eyes, they wanted information. For whatever reason, I loved that age group at the national team level. And they were fighting all the time to get more information and learn and become pros. And at that time, I also had, my oldest son was also around that age and, fighting to get into college, and he was playing baseball, so different sport, but still the same mentality. So I love being on the field. I think I still feel most comfortable when I have grass under my feet, and I'm out on the field. But I've kind of made my way in the sort of analyst role, if you will, and I
Hmm.
feel comfortable. It's only been I've been doing this 15 years. It's only been really like the last 5 years where I feel super comfortable in the way that I look at the game, and then more importantly, the way I convey the game and my thoughts,
I can
because it's
relate to
an
that.
art that you have to learn.
Yeah, very much a craft.
Do you both still get, like, for me, stepping off the field and then into the booth, because that happened very quickly? I still get my adrenaline rush that way. Do you guys still get an adrenaline rush when you call the game? Like, that just fixes that void of when you used to walk onto the pitch and you'd hear the crowd and you could, to your point, feel the grass under your boots. Do you guys still get that, or is it kind of like, like moving on,
For like commentary.
commentating? Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I do. The only reason I still think about coaching, there is one incident that I'll never forget. I did an NYCFC game, and Dominic Kinnear was the coach of the opposing team. Dominic was my old roommate for 4 years with the U.S. men's national team, and he said to me after the game, he said, "Oh man, I listen to you every week." He goes, "I think you do a great job." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Thanks, Tom, for going out of your way and saying that." And I was driving home, and my wife happened to be up, and it was really late, and she's never up waiting for me really late. And I was sat there, and she said, "What are you thinking about?" I said, "Dominic Kinnear made this comment to me about me doing really well." And I said to her, "But do I win or do I lose? Like, what's winning and losing like for me? I get the rush. Cameras go on. You rehearse all you want, but Lori, you guys know, but Christina, you do it too. You rehearse all you want, but when the cameras come on, there's something different, right? There's just like a feeling that's completely different, and I love that. But in this business, like I feel like I'm never going to be standing on the podium, winning a trophy and holding it up in the end, and that's what I did my entire life at every level, and that's the only thing that. Now you can win awards here, and you get plaudits and all of that, and I appreciate any of that stuff. But there's something about being the last man standing at the end of the season and being on a podium with your group that you have personalities and nationalities, all like everybody's different, and somehow you got together to do something that no one else could do in your league, right? You win something. And that's the part that one day I want to get back to and at least have a chance to do. There's more of a likelihood that it doesn't happen that you win something. We all know that. But the reality is you got to be in the fight, right, to do it. But, yeah I do get the rush when the games start for sure.
Yeah. I know that we have to be mindful of your time because I do like hearing that aspect. And it is interesting about the winning and losing and just like the fighting together and how finite that feels too as a player, right? And just like soaking that up, but reinventing that as a coach and going for the journey with all of your players as well. Yeah, it's so special. And even just doing these Euros, it's like takes me back to all those times with the national team specifically, or any of my club teams too. And you're just like, oh, what a moment, right? And we get that sometimes when we're at the stadiums, and you could feel that even more so when you're live at the stadium, feeling the excitement, feeling the sorrow, depending on what side you're on. But I do want to ask one specific question about goalkeeping, just going back to that, because the goalkeeping position has changed quite a bit. And in some ways, Hannah Hampton, who you brought up, excellent with the ball at her feet. And we saw one of them, I'm not sure actually if you saw it, Tony, but there was a game earlier on against the Netherlands. It was still in group stage. And she drove this like 40-yard ball into Alessia Russo, the center forward, and then it was like a quick 1-2, then Lauren James finishes it, and they score, right? And that opened the scoring against like a 4-0 game against Netherlands. But I say that because Hannah Hampton's like a prime example of a modern-day type goalkeeper. She almost steps out. They can play like a hybrid 3-back with her, stepping out and playing as almost like 11th player on the field. So how do you see the game evolving or that position evolving? And then what would that look like for you? Would you have wanted to do that as a goalkeeper?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I think in that aspect, I was probably a little bit ahead of. I wish I played in this time. It was a major strength of mine, both right and left foot, all over the field. It was something that I enjoyed doing, and I think I was ahead of my time, and I was good at it. Two, we didn't have a lot of coaches that were willing to play it. Like Pep Guardiola kind of screwed up world football, right? Like everyone wants to play that way, and the
I love the youth
expectation.
clips of the kids playing like that.
Yeah. There's
It's the
actually
best.
I watch Christina. There's a what the heck is the name of the Twitter handle? I think it's called "When Playing Out of the Bad Goes Wrong" or goes bad, or playing out
Sounds
of the
like something
bad
I need to
goes
follow.
bad. No, it's really. I mean, you see all these clips, and it's all professional teams like just trying to do it. So when you think about it at the youth level, but yeah, there's a different ask of the goalkeepers these days. What I don't like. I literally, 2 days ago, a buddy of mine was at an academy training, an MLS academy training, watching his son, who is not a goalkeeper, but he was a goalkeeper, and he sent me he said, "I've been standing here for 20 minutes, and the goalkeepers haven't touched the ball with their hands once." And then I got to think, I've been standing here for 30 minutes, and the goalkeepers haven't touched the ball with their hands once. And we got up to 45 minutes. I'm like, dude, you got to stop, man. This is the way they train goalkeepers now. He's like, I don't understand it. I still think that the number one mission for the goalkeepers is to save the ball. Just like I think for center backs, the number one mission is to be a good defender, and then you have to have the ability to play out of the back. And you can always simplify it for everybody, but the ask is completely different for goalkeepers now than it was back in the day. But I would have loved to have played in this day and age with regards to that part of the game. The diving 300 times a day, like I'm okay living without it right now. I'm good. But that part would have been fun.
So, okay, so I know a lot of non-soccer people, right? So they were watching the women's Euros because I pretty much told everyone not to leave me alone. I was going to actually watch a full Euros game and not be interrupted. The multiple texts I got saying how everyone hates things ending in penalties. I get that all the time, but like, how do you end a game then? You can't just keep playing until like, or do we do TST version? You just remove a player off the field in every like target zone time. But like, I don't know. I like penalties to end the game. I think at the end of the day, we've left it what it is. Like, you guys have any thoughts on how to end a game outside of that? I can't think of otherwise. I mean, outside of which,
like
Tony, you've done the old school MLS penalty kick shootouts. Like, those were classic. Like, would you rather do that versus a regular penalty kick?
I would love to see that come back in MLS. It's never going to. I actually like penalty kicks. I think there's great drama to it. It's great for television. It shows the emotion of the game, the pressures of the game. I don't know how else you would end it. In MLS Next, they do penalty kicks at the end of every game. In Leagues Cup coming up, they're doing penalty kicks. I wonder what it's tough with 2-hour television blocks. We know that, right? But I wonder what it would look like if they went to that and said, hey, you know what? We're going to do penalty kicks. So you're going to get 1 point, just like in Leagues Cup. We're going to see it here for the next couple of weeks. You get 1 point for a draw, then you do penalty kicks, and you get an extra point. So you get 2 points if you win the penalty kick shootout. So I wonder how that would change standings, what drama it would bring to different competitions. But I don't know how else he would end it.
Actually, I think I would agree with that. I have fans here in Tampa, right, who don't know soccer. They're getting to know the soccer, and they're always upset because last year I think we had like a record 8 ties or something like that. And they were just like, can we just end each tie with like a penalty kick shootout to make it exciting? Or you have any
why
thoughts?
not? But you tell me there wouldn't be drama? I mean,
It
they're
is.
in
They
the
all
stadium?
sprint to one side, right? You see the whole kids just sprint to one side and all the
Yeah.
pressure's there. It's the coolest thing when like everyone just gravitates towards one side of the stadium. It makes it exciting. You walk off, it's like hockey, right? Like you can't end in a tie in hockey. That's what makes hockey exciting. You start removing the players and just people keep hitting and people stay.
I don't know. The TST is so fun in regards to that small tournament, or I mean, small sided tournament. But I tend to agree with Tony on this. It's like feels cruel the way that sometimes it happens, but like it does mean drama. It means people are on the edge of their seats. I mean, you always look at like when big networks are looking at the viewership in total, and you're like, okay, well, increase considerably because everybody's getting word, like, tune in. It's going into overtime. It's going to penalty kick. So it does. I mean, we'd
Yeah.
love that here in the States, especially the drama filled with that. So I tend to lean towards what you're saying too, Tony.
All right,
Yeah,
Tony,
I just
last
don't know how
oh,
else he would do it. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I say last question. Domestic professional football is coming back, right? NWSL. I mean, I know MLS has been back in it. What are you looking forward to in domestic football? And then what are you looking forward to, international domestic football is coming. Serie A, EFL. I know we're kicking off with that
Yeah.
next week. What are you looking forward to in this new season / half season stateside?
Yeah, well, we're in that final stretch right after Leagues Cup and MLS, which I always love. I think the playoffs they're narrowing it down to once they get into those single game eliminations, I love that part of it. And I think this will be a really exciting Premier League season. I don't think there's going to be a team that's going to run away. Arsenal's gotten better. Liverpool's gotten really strong. Man City's going to have a bounce back. What does Chelsea look like? And then in Serie A, we've got not only my beloved Milan, which gives me heartache like every single week, but we got
There's always a
Americans
referee
playing.
decision against them too.
Oh yeah, I know. We
Like
have
I'm bringing
Christina
Christina,
on every week.
and
I'm
I'm
like,
like,
Christina, give me one thing to hang my hat on a
oh,
little bit.
Milan fans hate me.
I know. I think it's the league that year in and year out is the most contested league when you get to the last couple weeks of the season, right? And Italian teams have done a really good job of strengthening this over this last year. And like I said, we got Americans that play all through the league now, which is a lot of fun to watch. So that's where I kind of will focus most of my attention and most of my my work for the next couple months.
No, awesome. Thanks, Tony. I know there's a lot of really cool things coming down the pipeline too we can't talk about, but I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see where you end up coaching wise as well. Lori and I or Lori won TSD and I won a championship for Super League, so completely get the whole adrenaline rush.
See now,
Yeah,
now
we got to get
go
you
now.
in, Tony. We got to. I know you didn't win in TST. That would have done that fix for a bit.
I
So,
know.
but thanks for your
That's fun,
time.
though. Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
guys.
for sure.
Keep up
Appreciate
the
it.
good
Thanks for
work.
joining.
Love you guys, and we'll
Yeah.
chat with you soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks so
and the
much.
mullet is amazing. I just looked it up. It's incredible.
All right,
Lori,
see
you
ya.
would want that. Bye.
Alrighty.
Thank you for watching the Soccer Podcast USA. As you can imagine, we are jumping around all over the place, but the summer of soccer is alive and well. We are still in it. Excited to bring you more guests, as well as different things that we're covering with Lori finishing up Copa America Femenina. You'll see much more of that, and returning to professional football domestic side, stateside with MLS, NWSL, and USL Super League. Now the Gainbridge Super League coming to you. So look forward to it. Catch you in the next show. Don't forget to follow us on the Soccer Podcast USA as we continue to bring you big names and bold opinions. That's it for our show. See you later.